Hello and welcome to Day 3 of European Sustainable Energy Week 2024. I'm your MC, Jennifer Baker, and we have once again got a very packed schedule for you today. Thousands of people have been joining us online and here on site in person in the Charlemagne building and the Martins Hotel. And today we have 20 parallel policy sessions taking place here in person, 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, as well as 4 exclusively online sessions via the conference platform. The theme this year is, of course, net zero energy solutions for a competitive Europe, but within that there are 5 key policy areas we're really focusing on. Towards net zero, cities and citizens, renewables, energy efficiency and decarbonisation. So make sure you go to the platform and plan your own agenda. You can make it very personalised to pick which of those themes you want to focus on, or if you want to go through and see as many as possible. But of course, if you miss any, don't worry, because they are all recorded and you'll be able to watch them online via the platform at the end of the day. And speaking of the end of the day, we will be having a plenary closing session, and we will be joined for that by Executive Vice President in charge of the Green Deal, Mara Šefčovič, who will be talking to some of our young energy ambassadors. That'll be followed by a networking cocktail where you all get the chance to reminisce over the things you've heard over the last 3 days and make plans for the future and hopefully form lasting connections. If you're online, we can't offer you the cocktail, but we can offer you the chance to also do some networking. Please use the chat function or indeed the video function on the platform to connect with the other attendees virtually. We're going to be using Slido once again today to get people involved and have a bit more interaction. You can go to slido.com or sli.do and put in the hashtag EUSEW2024, or you can scan the big, huge QR code on the screen there with your smartphone, and it will take you directly to the platform. And make sure to check which policy session you are attending in order to put your questions or answer the polls and word clouds. That's it for the housekeeping for now, so get ready for Day 3. Now, 2 of those key themes that I mentioned are indeed energy efficiency and renewables. There have been 13 policy sessions on each, so it's been something that's been highlighted all throughout the previous days. We're going to start with a one-on-one interview, a sort of fireside chat without the fire, to discuss that and really set the scene before we break up into the sessions. We're going to have Areti Ntaradimou, Brussels editor for Enlit Media, interviewing our own Deputy Director-General from DG Energy in the European Commission, Mechthild Wörsdörfer. Ladies, take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here today. And I would like to address a special thank you to Team EUSEW for giving me the opportunity to pick Mechthild's brain. So, Mechthild, without further ado, how important are renewables and energy efficiency for Europe's future?
So first of all, I'm very happy to be at the morning of the 3rd day, because I think we still have an exciting last day of the EU Sustainable Energy Week, and I'm pleased to see so many enthusiastic energy followers. And of course, renewables and energy efficiency are the cornerstone of our policies, of our European Green Deal, of our energy and climate policy, because we have been really going further on this clean energy transition. Renewables are the domestic, are the affordable, are the climate neutral competitive sources. And we have a number of resources under the renewables. Wind and solar are the ones where we had record years in the last 2 years coming out of the energy crisis. And we have energy efficiency. And I like that we put both today on the table because they work hand in hand together. Energy efficiency is the one where we can do much more in saving energy, but also using energy much more efficiently, be it in industry, be it in buildings, be it in the transport sector. So I think with energy efficiency, we can lower our bills, we can do much more for the climate, we can import less, so we are less dependent on imports, and we can create jobs. The same for renewables. We have a strong renewables industry, certainly on wind and offshore wind. We are struggling on the solar side, but we also can say the same, that it's beneficial in terms of jobs, growth, and also climate and affordable prices.
sometimes I get the impression that we're on a race if we hear the scientists talking. So I would like to ask you, where should we focus our efforts to do the best of it? And where are the challenges? You already mentioned solar, but I'm sure there are more.
Yes. So we have just adopted last year, together with the co-legislators, our Renewables Directive with 42.5% target for 2030, going even to 45. We are right now around 23-24%. We need an acceleration. We need to work on the key obstacle for renewables deployment, which is basically permitting. And here we already did also, together with our member states, put renewables as the overriding public interest. That was coming out of the crisis, but I think it's a strong signal. And we have introduced permitting rules in our emergency legislation, and which is now becoming permanent in our Renewables Directive, meaning we introduced one-stop shop, tacit approval, really making it happen. And as I said, we had record years for both solar and wind in 22-23, and we are seeing an acceleration which is needed in 24. Same for energy efficiency. It's not enough to have an ambitious target, which we have with 11.7% by 2030, also agreed, but we need the measures. We really need to work on the buildings, for example. Buildings is still 40% of our energy consumption. We need to insulate our houses. We need to introduce more efficient windows, more efficient products in our daily life, and that can help us to go out of the crisis and, of course, to reach our 2030 targets. So a lot of measures are needed with our stakeholders and with our member states.
Well, high energy prices are also, I think, one of the issues and one of the challenges, with many citizens and industry players struggling a little bit. So how is the European Commission going to address this issue?
Indeed. I think what we saw in the crisis in August 22, an unprecedented high peak of energy prices, electricity and gas prices. So what we already did is really, with our electricity market design, to look how to protect consumers and empower consumers, and I will come back to that. And then also how we can have this extreme volatility of energy prices captured in having more forward-looking markets, like what we propose for industry and for our partners, contract for difference, which is a bit more longer term, or PPAs, meaning that companies who are producing energy and companies who are using energy get together, have a 10-15 years contract for part of their energy needs, and that will flatten down a little bit the energy prices. I think what we see now after 2 years after that peak, nearly 2 years, that energy prices are nearly back at the pre-crisis and pre-COVID, but we have wholesale market prices and retail. So we have still a little bit to work that the end consumer, which is our focus citizen, gets even more on the energy bill. But energy efficiency, renewables, and the electricity market design are there to have that continued focus on prices to make our industry more competitive and help our citizens.
And is it true that renewables and energy efficiency solutions are very expensive and difficult to finance?
No, not really. I mean, we have seen renewables becoming really competitive. I think when we started with solar more than 20 years ago and wind, offshore and onshore wind, we saw it was expensive. It was a new technology. We had to introduce it. Now that we have the scaling impact and that we have much more renewables in the market, we have seen that prices have become much more competitive. And that's why we had these boom years compared to gas or other energy sources. So there is a change in the bill if you use more renewables instead of gas or oil still in, for example, in residential buildings. So they have become more, energy efficiency, I think, is a no-brainer, because the less energy you consume, or the energy you consume more efficiently, the lower is your bill. And that was also a phenomenon in the crisis, where people, I think, became much, much more aware of their energy bills. And we have worked a lot also through our legislation that the consumers get more information, that there's more transparency, that you see what is the part which is really energy production, what is the part you pay for grids or levies. So the consumer is much more informed. There are more flexible contracts. There are more smart meters. There are more digital tools. So as a consumer, you can become more active, a prosumer, and then have an impact on your bill. And all what you need to do, I think, is really to look at your bill and save energy and become more energy efficiency and invest in your home. What is true, when you speak, there is an investment to be made. If you renovate your house or if you install a heat pump, which is also extremely efficient, you have a price to pay. So the payback is a few years, 5 to 10 years, depending on the product. So there's an investment to make, and that's obviously something we have to look at, how we can help, certainly, the poor consumers.
Not to mention that there's also the just energy transition and leaving no one behind. The Commission is really helping with households that cannot perhaps afford electricity. Correct?
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I mean, we have the issue of just transition, where we work a lot in regions, for example, where we had coal in the past, and they are transitioning to renewables and other sources. So we have the Just Transition Fund. We have also regions where we work, former coal regions, or still coal regions which are in transition. That's something DG Energy is very active together with our colleagues in DG Regio. So there are money available to help this transition, and I think this is something where we have a number of success stories throughout the EU, in Central and Eastern European, and other parts of the EU, where we really managed to help the reskilling, to help people to find new jobs, and that also the industry stays in these regions and the people stay in these regions. So I'm a strong believer that this Just Transition and Just Transition platform, which is happening once a year, and I think in July again in Slovenia. So we try really to go out and talk to the people, talk to the mayors, talk to the citizen, and I think this is something we have been working for many years now, but it's showing certainly some good examples.
But it's not only the financing part, it's also technology and other things. So how are you helping member states and citizens and the industry also to deliver on the ambitions that we have for 2050, 2030?
Yes. So I start with the citizens, because I think we need to focus much more on the citizens. We have to take the citizens along in our clean energy transition and also come up with facts that it's cheaper or becoming cheaper, and then investments which have a payback. What we also encourage a citizen to do, and we discussed it in the last Energy Council 2 weeks ago over lunch, to have energy sharing. So that you have eventually a rooftop solar, which is now two-thirds of all the solar installation are in households, are the rooftop solars, which have also been increasing a lot. But not everyone has a roof. So we have encouraged in our legislation, but also talking to many stakeholders, and I'm sure here are also very good examples of energy sharing. Belgium is one of the countries which have been pushing that quite a lot, and that's why with the Belgian EU presidency at the Council, we had a lot of exchange. So we would like to foster that, and we were asked from the Commission that we produce some kind of guidance. So how to overcome, for example, legal hurdles to create a ASBL, an organization to get together, how we can make sure that the people are informed that these are possibilities. So energy sharing is one. Energy communities, which is renewable-based, which is part of our RED 3 or already renewables directive before. It's also something that people create energy communities. It must not even be your neighbors. It can be somebody who's living in another city that you create energy communities. And both energy sharing, energy communities is this concept of citizen becoming active, either with digital tools, either via getting together. And as I said, we will produce more guidance, more best practice. Because when I was in the Council, I heard some member states are much more advanced. I mentioned Belgium, there are a couple of others. Others have not yet these energy communities and energy sharing. So we have to show them that's possible. You need, and I'm sure there are different forms. We don't want one size or one concept for all, but there are really engaged persons which can share their energy and do that. And I think this citizen focus is important. You also mentioned industry. Industry, and that's the focus also of this EU Sustainable Energy Week. How can we make industry more competitive? We can speak about energy-intensive industries, because here energy prices are really a big part of their bill or of their competitiveness. So I've been working with steel, cement, aluminium and other industries, so that we bring the energy prices down for these industries. They are also on their way to decarbonization, and it's important that we have more green steel and more green products also because they have a big emitter. So there's a lot of support, both from research fund, from other funds, innovation fund, that these industry are helped to become also decarbonized without having increasing the prices. And as I mentioned before, energy prices as such are also for industry becoming more reasonable since the peak which we lived, which we saw during the crisis.
Absolutely. At this point, I hope everybody is using Slido and everybody is asking questions that will come to Mechthild and the Commission in the future so that you can get some nice answers while we're having a glass of water a little bit. And proceeding to the final, let's say, part of this very interesting conversation. Now, I know that it is very early to talk about the next Commission, but I think it's in everybody's mind, and I can't help myself. So can you guesstimate, if I may use the word, what do you think will be the probable priorities regarding these two sectors that we've been discussing about renewables, energy efficiency?
So first of all, I think we all agree that with the energy crisis, with the good results coming out of the crisis, but also with the Fit for 55 package, we have put on the table and agreed, thanks to the co-legislators, a huge package. We have a renewables directive agreed, entered into force, and we have the energy efficiency one, and I like to also mention here in that context the energy performance of buildings directive. These were difficult negotiations with Parliament and Member States, but we have agreed. And there is, I think, a lot of ambition, a lot of measures to help really push forward, come forward for our 2030 targets, for renewables, for energy efficiency, but also to decarbonize our building sectors, with all the benefits we have mentioned for security of supply, so be less dependent on imports, for affordability, for our citizen and for our industry, and for our climate and sustainability. And I think what the new Commission needs to do, what we already started, is to deliver and implement. So to make sure that our member states have the capacity, have the need, and it's law, so they have to, but that we help them. We have a lot of technical expertise in the House. There's a lot of technical expertise from stakeholders and in member states. So the first thing which we will tell our new commissioner once she or he arrives is to implement the package on energy efficiency, renewables with the member states. And I think, as I said, there's a lot in it in energy communities, in acceleration of renewables, in speeding up permitting. So all this needs to happen on the ground. It's not enough that we have passed the major milestone of adoption of this ambitious legislation. It needs to be implemented. And that's the very first thing I think we need all work together. This means also from our side, now I'm a bit legal, that there is secondary legislation, so that we have in the text come up with implementing act, delegated act. That is there, it's quite technical, but it helps industry, for example, to see how we implement it. Let me take one example out of the Energy Efficiency Directive. In the Energy Efficiency Directive, among many other things, we focus on data centers. Data centers are increasing with AI and all what we are using in our digital tools, but they are consuming enormous amount of energy. They are very good, it's not a criticism, but they are big users of energy. In our Energy Efficiency Directive, we have introduced that we look how they use their energy, and they have to report to their member states under certain criteria how they use energy and how they become more energy efficiency. So we have a delegated act just now implemented, which gives the criteria, so we can compare, we can say, okay, this is very good, this is maybe less good with our member states. So this is a specification which helps us, and I think which helps the company as well, because then they know how to report. And we can not have, if I can use that, apple and pears, but we have key indicators where they can report and we can compare progress. So these secondary legislation, Delegated Act, Implement Act, are coming as we speak to implement the renewables and the Energy Efficiency Directive. Then, for the new Commission, I think the competitiveness, the industrial policy is something we need to continue working. So the link between renewables, energy efficiency, and our policies with industrial competitiveness is definitely something which the new commissioner will come up. We had a solar package to help the solar industry. We had a wind power package. We have good examples where we have strong wind industry in Europe and how to keep it. We have a grids action plan. I haven't speak about grids, but it's very much linked to our renewables policy and internal market policy. So all that, I think, is the link also the new Commission will work on. And the third point is definitely the citizen, how to make this affordability of energy prices. In our last Eurobarometer, affordability is one of the key worries for the new for our people, so we have to continue work on just transition as we make, on affordability, on putting the citizen at the center, allowing them, for example, with energy sharing, energy community, be more proactive. And the last point, also for the new Commission, I think, is the whole global aspect. We haven't mentioned it yet, but both on energy and efficiency and renewables, we had a major agreement with more than 100 countries at the last COP, where we agreed that altogether we want to triple renewables, and the EU is one of the leading regions in the world here, and that we want to double energy efficiency measures. And now we need to monitor that, work with our partners on make it happen, also this tripling of renewables and doubling of energy efficiency. So I can think these are the ways, but I really, I am sure that we need to continue putting as the cornerstone of our policies energy efficiency and renewables.
And still keeping the Green Deal in our hearts.
Absolutely, absolutely. The European Green Deal, the Fit for 55, is the way forward. For climate, for competitiveness, for security of supply. We still live in an uncertain world. I was at the Ukraine Recovery Conference. We still have to do a lot more for our partners, including on Ukraine.
That is music to our ears, Mechthild. Thank you very much for this very interesting discussion. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, ladies. It was a fascinating discussion and I hope has set the stage for our round of parallel policy sessions. Please be aware that there are several all happening at the same time, both here and the Martins Hotel. So if you are changing venues, do give yourself enough time and to get there and don't miss the beginning of your sessions. For those online, you can join those special dedicated sessions as well. You've got 4 exclusively for yourselves and you can just click which one you want to follow on the platform, as well as, of course, following the ones that were happening in person. We will be back after the lunch break and the coffee breaks, which will take place in between those sessions. Remember, you can change stream at any time, and we'll be back here in the plenary room for the closing later on this afternoon. So please don't miss that. Have a great day and great discussions.